Welcome to this episode of the Brush and Soap and Blade Podcast, where we look forward to shaving every day. Welcome to episode 58 of the podcast. My name is Rick DeWeese. I'll be your host this week. This week we've got a couple of letters to go through, and then we get to the main attraction. I was honored. I was absolutely honored to have two very special guests on the program for this week's show. And they are none other than Darren and Carrie of Soap Commander. It was a great interview. Runs a little long. I thought about editing something out, but then I thought, no, can't do it, because I think everything that's in there, well, it's treasure. It's absolute treasure. So let's get on with this thing, because I don't want to hold you up from this great interview. So the first letter this week I got from Jean. Hello, Rick. I'm new to the exciting world of DE shaving and still looking around and sizing up the landscape, so to speak. It didn't take me long to find your podcast, and I've been listening to it ever since. I've stumbled across a couple of surprises, and most of them are reflected in your podcast. First, the jump in quality and its effect on the shaving experience surprised me. I'm not talking about high-end shaving products either. When I start a hobby, I generally start cheap with the idea that there's no point in spending a lot of money on an experience I won't appreciate. It also helps with the sticker shock of buying a complete set of new equipment. So, my new DE shaving gear ranged from serviceable to bottom shelf. This equipment was head and shoulders above any disposable razor or canned shaving goop that I'd ever used before. I won't name names, as I don't want to criticize the people that made my entry-level gear. The point is that the DE shaving experience at the barest entry level is far superior to anything available from the disposable shaving world. I've also noticed that within the DE shaving community, there's room for everyone, at least the parts I've visited. I think the best demonstration of this comes in the many reviews to be seen, heard, or read. When someone gives a negative review, they will typically say, "I don't like this," rather than, "This is a bad product." The difference between those two statements is huge. It's the acknowledgement that the review provides one opinion rather than an objective fact. Many reviewers, including you, will underline judgments with the statement, "This is my opinion," which I think is a wonderful habit. It allows everyone to have their opinion and enjoy shaving however they care to do so without being looked down upon because they have the wrong blade for their razor or they use an unpopular soap. Instead, we celebrate the variety of ways to enjoy shaving, and isn't that what the resurgence of DE shaving is all about? Rick, you are a wonderful example of the best aspects of a wonderful community. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Jean. Well, Jean, excellent letter. I really appreciate that. That's really great. First off, I too started the hobby with minimal investment. And I continued for a long time with essentially very little to no investment, as far as big dollar things. Even now, one of the most expensive things I have, when I think about it, is my Police-On brush, which I paid like $55 for. So, yeah, you can start off a lot cheaper. My first brush was a Vanderhagen brush for like $10. One of my favorite brushes is a Semogue, that is like $19. And the majority of razors that I started with were, garage sale finds, antique store finds. I don't think I paid more than $10 for almost all of them. So you're absolutely right. And first off, I have to say, I am so happy for you that you were able to find an absolutely exquisite experience for low dollars. And I'm also happy you wrote me, because now it's not just me saying it, but you're saying it too. And the more people that say it, the more people hear it. And it's not just coming from one person. When it comes from multiple directions, people kind of take notice and start to believe. because it is possible to get a much better shave and much better experience. And I was testing out the Soap Commander soaps last week, and one of the things that dawned on me is just the plethora of fragrances that we have. I mean, when was the last time a can of shaving stuff, foam or gel or whatever, smelled like, well, anything different? There's no variety there. It's just foam. It's not experience. And there's a huge difference there. So thank you very much for pointing that out, because sometimes, yeah, you're right. We think that you have to spend big bucks. Oh, the reason that guy's getting a great lather is because, well, the brush. Maybe. Then again, maybe not. And, I'm a proponent of testing, of experimenting, and finding joy in that experience, which I think some people, they're afraid to experiment. And you need to experiment to find out what works. And if you can have fun doing it, and it sounds like you've had fun, that's even better. So I really enjoyed that part of your letter. Now, I also enjoyed the part where you said a lot of reviewers in the shaving community will make a statement that, well, this isn't for me, or it didn't work well for me, or I didn't like the smell or something, but they won't just out and out say, this is garbage. And I absolutely agree. And the people that make the comment that this is garbage, or that is garbage, or this product isn't any good, or that vendor isn't any good, unless they have provable facts, I really don't pay a lot of attention to them, and I wouldn't suggest you pay a lot of attention to them either, because usually they've got an agenda somewhere. Either that, or else they've just got a big, chip on their shoulder. I don't know. Because you're absolutely right. There are so many variables here, and it allows each one of us to be what we are, which is different. It's the Soap Commander soaps, and the reason I'm saying that is because I'm looking at all the samples here. There are some that, well, okay, they're nice, they work fabulously, but there are certain ones that I really, really like the smell of. And others, it's like, okay, it smells, it's okay, but there's nothing that I connect with there. And it's that connection that really kind of drives us and allows us to choose the things that we want. I mean, from a guy standpoint, why do we get cars and then turn around and pay money for a paint job that is different than anybody else? Well, because we like to be different than anybody else. And so having something like this hobby that allows you to experience those multiple variables and to mix and match and find something that is uniquely and truly personal and, well, yours, is really what's, is part of the fun of all this. And, if you're going through life, and I hate to say this, but if you're going through life on a day-to-day basis and you're not having fun and you're not enjoying it, you might as well go back to the can of goo and cartridge razor. I mean, if it's just a chore and you find no joy at all in experimenting and finding new things and creating that experience for you, okay. Anyhow, to each his own. Gene, thank you very much for the letter. I really enjoyed reading it. Good stuff. I got a follow-up letter from Greg. He said, hello, just heard, and Greg, if you didn't hear the last time, I was talking about sharpening and sharpening things, and I gave him a response on the last episode of the podcast where I fessed up and said, yeah, I'm still searching and trying to figure out how to do this stuff, I may sound like a professional. I'm just an amateur here at a lot of things. Anyhow, he says, hello, I just heard your response on the podcast. That is funny that you're on the hunt for sharpening knowledge, too. I guess this skill is one that was never passed down to me. I ended up buying a set of 4 different grades of Norton whetstones and will try to watch a lot of YouTube videos before I give it a go. So down the road, if you learn anything interesting that you think is worthy of a comment on the podcast or YouTube upload about sharpening, I'd be interested. Thanks. Well, Greg, I appreciate it. Yeah, I am searching, and believe me, if I find something, I'll let you know. I got a comment on the blog from Joe. He says, hi, Rick. You said your new Mercure slant isn't a vintage razor. You're right. Your razor is maybe produced not really long ago, but the Mercure model itself is, in fact, very old. It's over 80 years old. The Mercure 37C HD slant has been available since 1931, and it hasn't really changed much since then. In the U.S., it was also sold as the Hofritz slant by Hofritz, New York, and with a silver plating instead of the chrome like yours. The cap changed somewhere in the past. Earlier it had a straight edge without the ripples with another angle, and the knurling on the handle was a little bit more smooth. I love your podcast. It's always an inspiration for trying new things. Keep on doing what you do. Have fun, Joe. Well, Joe, thank you. I feel even better about my slant. I mean, not that I didn't feel fantastic about it to begin with, but just the fact that I'm using something that was designed and built and created back that long ago, and they're still making essentially the same thing today, man, that's just cool. That just adds another dimension to it. I mean, that's good stuff. Now, just so you know, the other razor that I have from back in that era is my, I believe it's that era, it's a 1930s era razor, is my Gillette Short Comb New. I think that's when it was. But it's a great shaver. I mean, it really is. So maybe it was back in the day when they had competitions between the companies that were making razor products for, razors that actually, should I say it, dare I say it, gave a good shave. Instead of some of the stuff we have now, which is just lining somebody's pockets. Anyhow, Joe, thank you for the letter. It made my day. I am absolutely honored and really quite excited because I have on the line with me here both Darren and Carrie Siebert from Soap Commander and Recharge. I believe that's the names. Am I correct in that, folks?
Yeah, well, the whole company is Soap Commander, and we have kind of 2 different lines. The men's line we've kind of dubbed as Take Charge, and the women's is kind of the Recharge. So they're kind of both kind of under the umbrella of Soap Commander. Okay, now I got that part. And the thing that I really like about this is that on all of your graphics, the Take Charge is white and the Recharge is black, and the triangles are opposite, and I mean that's just clever. I really, really like that. Well, thank you. We had the pleasure of working with a professional graphic designer to come up with the logo. We started from scratch, working with her, and it was quite a process. But once we hit on the final logo, we said, that's it. We knew it was it.
Well, it really comes off excellent. I mean, it's great marketing. I really like it. I didn't notice it at first. I was looking, and I was like, wait a minute, there's something different here.
There is.
Right. Yeah.
All righty. First question, what's the history of the Soap Commander? How did you guys get started in this?
Well, actually, we got started in this by Carrie experimenting by making homemade products to help our daughter, who's now, how old is she?
10.
10. She's 10 now, and she has eczema pretty severely. And she had made some homemade herbal salves to help her skin, and she also made some whipped shea butter to try to help her bring some type of relief, Rick, to her skin. That led into her finding a recipe for bath soap. And she came to me one day and said, Darren, I think I want to try to make homemade soap. And I scratched my head. I said, sure, honey. Whatever you like, dear. Yes, dear.
Yeah.
She made the soap, and it was a success. She made some for Christmas presents for our neighbors, and one of our neighbors works at a local plant. They took their bar of soap and cut that bar up and gave it to some of their coworkers, and then about 3 weeks later, they came back for a sale of about $200 worth of soap.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and I said, hey, this could do something.
Right.
So, but that's been about 3 years ago. We started a home-based business that was not Soap Commander. It was another name. But we have actually ceased and desist that company outright. And have since May, we have founded Soap Commander LLC and have not looked back.
All righty. Well, congratulations, first off. Great success story. And now, Carrie, I have to ask you, making soap, that is not something that doesn't take just a little bit of time. And if I'm not mistaken, you have kids that you're taking care of and homeschooling, right?
Yes, that's correct. Schedule is paramount in our house. If it's not on the schedule, it doesn't happen. The soaping, the actual, soap making, the physical part of it is a certain amount of time, but there's a lot that goes into it, of course, prior to that, and the planning out and pre-measuring ingredients and getting things all set up for that. And we've found a way to kind of, balance the time between what we need to do for homeschooling, family time, soaping, research, development, all those other little details that go into it. And it's just, it's exciting. I'm somebody who likes challenges, and this fits the bill great for me.
Well, excellent, and it's also I would imagine that the aspects of the business and marketing and things like that you can really bring into a homeschool environment to teach about businesses and money and finances and everything. It's really a great setup from that aspect.
It is. It's actually over the summer, two of our boys wanted to start their own company, and they were doing growing their own produce and making breads and pastry stuff from scratch. And they had this idea back last year about wanting to do that, and so they started this. Last year they went through a homeschool curriculum for their age group that had to focus on entrepreneurism and starting your own business, and really had to walk through all those steps. And then brought that to fulfillment this past summer and did farmers markets and some other, and we're successful with it. And so I saw, some direct carryover from what we were doing as, parents into, that lighting that fire in them and them taking responsibility for it. We offered to help them out financially and otherwise, and they said, no, we want this to be our own, and we want to do it on our own. And so that was really exciting to see that and to help them through that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. How did you end up with this Darren guy?
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you asked me that question and not him, because his version.
I've got a story to tell.
The truth of the matter is, when I was in college, I was going to college away from home, and I grew up in Maryland, and I was going to school in Pennsylvania. My family was going to church at our home church in Maryland. Darren was stationed in D.C., and he started attending church with my family. And my sister, who's 4 years younger than me, was in the youth group at the time, and said to him, they were messing around, and she said, if you don't leave me alone, I'm going to sick my older sister on you. And he said, oh, there's another one of you, to her, because we had 4 girls in the family. He didn't know I existed. And so she kind of introduced us, and it was like the first weekend we were together. We just knew that we were meant to be a team. And, it just everything clicked, fell into place. We were married, 9 months later, and been together for 21 years.
Wow. And he was in the Navy at the time.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So as a Navy veteran myself, thank you very much. Seriously, because a lot of women don't give Navy Navy folks, military folks, the time of day because they just think that they're going to leave. So thank you for that.
Well, I thought it was a privilege that he would want to be with me. We both, we did. It was just one of those things. And we always had in the back of our mind, there's that being deployed, there's being sent on a ship and all those things. And we just thought, the Lord will take care of us and we'll deal with whatever comes up. And he's brought us this far. So it's been good.
Excellent. So Darren, did you have anything to say in your defense here?
Well, after 21 years of marriage, I've learned that sometimes keeping my mouth shut is the best answer. I will tell you that I got the better end of the deal because I married way up, brother. Let me just say that. In more ways than one. Carrie graduated with a math education degree from the University of Maryland. I don't have a degree per se. And so I married not only up in beauty, but I also married up in intelligence as well. And it's paid off tremendously.
Excellent answer. I'm sure that will serve you well. So
yes.
So speaking of your Navy experience, what did you do in the Navy?
I was a cryptologist, and that's just a really long word for someone who works in military intelligence. I was very fortunate to work in the field of information warfare back in its infancy. I spent 20 years in the Navy. I spent most of my time working with the NSA in areas around Baltimore and Washington, D.C. In fact, 13 of my 20 years of service were in Maryland. So I was very fortunate to not have to leave my family very much. And we had I can't say that every assignment that I had was perfect, but I can tell you that it was a wonderful opportunity and an honor to serve our country and to be able to see it from this perspective of how blessed our country is and how much of an honor it is to serve.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. The only time that I ever had, let's see, when I was in the Navy, I was a nuclear machinist mate, and on my last ship, I was on the USS Texas, and this would have been in 86 or 87 time frame, and we were the only nuclear cruiser that wasn't associated with a carrier group. And so we were going up into dry dock, and before we did that, we left out of San Diego, and they put what was commonly known as a spook box on the back end of the ship, and we proceeded to go up to the eastern coast of Russia, the Vladivostok Peninsula, and we made ourselves look like, in all practical purposes, nothing more than a merchant ship until we hit the 4-mile border, at which time we turned on everything just to see what they would do. And that was a lot of fun. We stayed up there for about 4 days until we got a message from the State Department and said, be advised, back in 70-something or other, 74, 75, we signed a treaty. Their limit goes across the inlet that you are currently in. You are inside Russian waters. If you don't leave, it's on you. So wow. So we had Russian interpreters on board, and those guys were a tad scary because they wouldn't talk to anybody but each other, and they would only speak in Russian.
Exactly.
And
I am not one of those cryptologists. I assure you, I do not speak any foreign languages. I barely even speak English. But yeah, spooks have a bad taste for people like yourselves who had to cart them all over the world to perform their missions. I understand. I truly understand.
Oh, it didn't bother me a bit. The other thing that we had on board was we had SEALs on board. And on my previous, before I became a nuke, I was actually in Little Creek, Virginia, and I was on a salvage ship, and we would often get SEALs and the EOD folks to come down and help us when we found ships. They'd help us deal with munitions. So I was used to those guys. Those guys were pretty cool. I used to hang out because I was on the same base with them for probably about 6 months, and so that was a lot of fun. But one of the things that I fondly remember is when we left out of there, the SEALs, and this was in the Pacific Ocean, and it was cold up there. Even down in the engine room where the steam was, it was 30 some odd degrees. I mean, it was just freezing.
Oh my!
And
Wow.
and these seals got in a rubber inflatable boat and took it out and climbed up on and brought us back pictures. Climbed up on top of a Russian sonar buoy that was about 30 feet tall. And they showed us pictures. They took 3 cases of USS Texas bumper stickers and plastered every square inch of that. And how they got up there in that kind of weather, I do not know. But they plastered every square inch of that sonar buoy with USS Texas bumper stickers. It was a fabulous time.
That's funny. So funny. That is so funny. Go big or don't go at all, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's it's really the only time, out of 7 years in the Navy, I spent 2 years and 2 months on a boat. Out of that, I spent 2 months out at sea, and that was the majority of it.
There you go.
So I had a great naval career,
Right,
and it sounds like you did too. So
I did. I've seen some of the most incredible landscapes, met some of the most incredible people, done some incredible things that I would never ever be able to do if I had not left and served the military. Just words can't describe how much of a reflection that I have on my service and how much I enjoyed it. And for my wife as well. Our oldest son was actually born in Rota, Spain.
Oh, okay.
And you can imagine, Carrie and I were newlyweds, and we were newlywed in Spain. It was unbelievable.
Absolutely. Yeah, good stuff. Well,
yes, sir.
Thank you very much for your service, sir. Just so you know, my dad was actually a cryptologist in the Army back in the '60s.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
it's an interesting field. He never talked much about it. In fact, one time when my mom told me he was talking in his sleep, he about panicked.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, we could sit here and talk all day about Navy stuff, but just out of curiosity, and don't get me wrong, I enjoy doing that. Okay, so what came first? Was it soaps? Was it lotions? Was it lip balms? Was it aftershaves? I mean, where did you guys start this adventure?
Well, I actually started, making the products for our daughter. And with that, we were starting with like an herbal salve and whipped shea butter. And we weren't selling them. I was just making them for our own, benefit as a family. The first thing we actually brought to production for sale was the bar soaps. I went with that. We added in some salves and shea butter when we had the other company. And then we kind of expanded from that, went to lotions, and then realized that aftershave balms weren't that different from lotions, and started with the aftershave balms, and then kind of tackled the beast, which is shaving soap, and that has, so things have switched tremendously for us, where shaving soap now is our mainstay. That's our main product. But really, our whole focus has shifted. Our old company was very women focused, almost exclusively women products. And now we have flip-flopped that completely, almost.
Well, and thank you for doing that too, because your products. I bought the sampler pack, and I have to tell you, excellent products, excellent latherability, excellent smells. I mean, the variety of smells is just rather phenomenal, and a couple of them really took me down memory lane, which is always an absolute blast when I test out soaps and things like that. So, just if we stick with the shaving soaps, how did you guys come up with the scents for these things?
Well, there's four scents that we currently have in our stock right now that we use: the vision, the courage, the confidence, and the passion. Those were scents that we used in bar soap and aftershave from our previous company. We started out with those simply because those were our mainstays, and those were quite well for us because they were different than what was currently out there for our local markets. We went from that aspect, and we decided that we wanted to add some more fragrances. On our Take Charge logo, you'll see that there's a ship's wheel, and on that ship's wheel there are 8 different branches off of that wheel that they would steer the ship. What our desire is for Soap Commander is that we would come up with 8 mainstay fragrances that no matter what happens, those 8 scents would stick. And currently we have 9, along with our seasonal soaps as well. But we're hoping to continue to come up with 8 scents that will continue to stick. Some are going to stay and some are not. We are just trying to for our first year right now, what we're trying to do, Rick, is we're trying to develop just the right scents. We test almost on a weekly or bi-weekly basis new fragrances that are coming and try to find out what is it that's meeting Shavedom's world, their desires and their wants for the scents that they have. What is it that other artisan soap makers that aren't currently making them, not that they're not able to, but what are they not making, so that not only don't step on toes, but that we also don't interfere with their research and development. That's one of the unique things about being an artisan in the shaving and soap community. There's few of us right now, but most of us have a great respect for each other, and not only for ourselves, but for our products as well. So we really enjoy making the shaving soaps. Not that we don't enjoy making the lotions or don't enjoy making the bar soaps. This has just really opened up a whole new arena for us in our bath and beauty products.
But piggybacking on that with choosing fragrances, Darren is picky about.
Hey.
Truthful. He's very picky about the fragrances, and so there's some that I'll say, "Oh, I love this," and he'll, "Nope, not it. It's not it." If so, I'm going with him. It's a men's product line, and trusting his guidance on that. But it's, fragrances aren't going to meet everybody's, not everybody's going to approve of them, and that's okay. Well, we wanted to find ones that we were in love with and that met our customer base also, so that we could stand behind them and be able to explain them why we like them to our customers.
Much better said than me.
No.
Yeah, the ones that I really I love Vision. Like I said on my last episode, that took me down memory lane and really harkened back, and I hadn't really thought about it, but between the Soap Commander logo and kind of the old Navy thing, it took me back to boot camp. And it was,
I'm so sorry.
No, it was a good thing because those were the times of when we were getting ready to leave and go somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was really good. The other one that I really liked, and this is something that I had a question on when I found it in the sampler pack, was Love, which is a rose scent, and it's a very unique rose scent, and it actually reminded me very much of my grandmother and some of the products that she used to use. Now, my question for you, Darren, is how did you let that one get by you?
Good question.
Well, to be quite honest with you, we started making this soap out of a request from some dear friends of mine who are shavers, who asked us, "Hey, is it possible that you guys could make a rose-scented soap that would be a dupe of Clark Cabernet?" And I said, rose is so difficult to try to do. There's so many different types of rose fragrances that are out there, even rose essential oils. And we said, we can try it, but there's no guarantees. So when we got this one in the mail, we smelled it. And by the way, when you get a fragrance oil or an essential oil out of a bottle and you sniff it, it's going to smell different than it does once you soap it, believe it or not. And this one carried through the saponification process just wonderfully. And we thought, this might just work. And we sent it out to our testers, and they came back, and they said, this is the one. This is it. So we were very pleased with Love. It would not have been my first choice. I'm not a huge fan of rose. However, I'm very thankful of the reception that it's received, not only here in the States, but overseas as well.
But you've said it's kind of grown on you a little bit.
It has. Kind of like patchouli. It's grown on me.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah. Well, whoever asked you to make that, thank you. Thank them for me, because it's an excellent scent. And like I said, it did take me down memory lane, and that's one of the things that I've talked about often. People don't smell things the same, and people have different scent memories, and so it's very, very similar to all of the other variables, if you will, within shaving or the wet shaving experience. There's so many variables that you may not enjoy that particular scent, But the thing that's nice about your soaps is that they all have a standard base, and the base works. And so, you can kind of mix and match. So, but that particular one, I really, really like. It really was a lot of fun.
Well, thanks so much, Rick. And just to piggyback on what you just said, that is our ultimate desire. When we blend these fragrances together, we're trying to take you on an experience, on a journey. We want to take your mind back to somewhere you've been before, whether it's a refreshment sweet tea like your grandma used to fix for you when you're mowing grass. I mean, that was what that was for me. We really want to give you an experience in your scent, because as you and I both know, and others who are coming into wet shave world understands greatly now, that shaving is truly, there's so many senses that are involved in shaving, and the scent is paramount as far as getting the true experience. Now, the performance, we are very thankful. Most people don't realize this, but we went through almost 20 different recipes to try to get to this recipe that we currently have right now that we're very excited about. But the scent, we really want to help people connect with a scent from their past to the scent they're using there in that tub, so that it can remind them of great times they've had. So thanks for bringing those up.
Oh, absolutely, not a problem. Like I said, that to me, that's almost half the experience for me, anyhow. It really is, to be able to. It's one of those things where you have kind of a Zen moment, if you will, where things just slow down and stop, and you get enveloped in the warmth of the water, the softness or the scrubbiness of the brush, the scent of the soap, the feel, the luxuriousness of the feel of the soap. And it really kind of cements the whole experience into something that is very pleasurable and at the same time exceedingly centering.
Yes.
So, okay. So, Darren, are you a wet shaver?
Oh, absolutely. For the last almost 2.5 years now.
Okay, and what got you into it initially?
Curiosity. I was an electric shaver for years. I never shaved with disposable or cartridge or anything in the Navy. I always used an electric razor for speed of service, but you're never satisfied with the shave. And I was just curious about how all this worked. And I was drawn to the fact that people actually make lather with a brush and still use it and take 30 minutes for a shave and want to do it again tomorrow. and it just, it intrigued me. So I went to Amazon.com one day and bought myself a Merkur 23C and bought myself a Scally Badger brush and went to it.
Excellent. And have you changed your brushes or your razors from there? I mean, what's been the evolution there for you?
Have I changed?
Well, I knew, just as an interjection, I knew this was more than just a curiosity thing when he took over more than half of the bathroom space.
Hey.
That's true. That is the truth.
That is.
And so I went, oh, this is going someplace. But anyways, he can tell you more about the gear.
Well, Carrie, he's not the only one.
I know. Once I got online on some of the Facebook groups and started seeing pictures of other men's dens, I thought, oh, I actually kind of have it easy here with his selection. But truly, I had no clue that there could be such, such a huge following for shaving soap. I mean, it becomes, a men's shaving den puts some of the women's shoe dens to shame.
Hey, I don't know about that.
Men take the shaving very, very seriously, and there's an endless variety of gear y'all can buy to go with that.
Well, there is an endless variety of gear, and just like a decent pair of shoes, we're on the endless search to find perfection.
Right.
Absolutely.
And you don't want to get bored with it.
That's the big thing for me, because I'm very similar to an otter. I like to play. And so, just having the experience and playing with new things for me is probably 3/4 of the fun of it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've definitely added a few razors, a few brushes to the collection. Thanks to some friends of mine who made some great suggestions. We now have synthetic brushes, and we have a horsehair brush, and we have badgers and boar brushes. In fact, I'm at the point now where I truly enjoy boar brushes to a point where I would almost prefer a good Simone boar over a nice badger 2-band, but I'm not quite there yet.
Well, I'm there. It's just it didn't take me long. I love Simone brushes. I've got an 830 and a 1305, and I've got 3 or 4 boar brushes that just sit there. And the only one that has much competition with the boars is my Plisson synthetic. And then it depends on what kind of soap I'm using, because if it's a harder soap, I'm going to the boar and going to have just as good an experience with it as I could with anything else.
Right. I agree with that. I don't own a Plisson, but I do agree with you on that with the synthetic.
Well, one of the things that I found with synthetics in general is that they're just so soft.
They are. They are incredibly soft and luxurious. Absolutely. And I'm primarily a face lather now. When I started out, I was a bow lather, and I used to always condemn those face lathers. How could you do that to your face? Don't you know what you're missing? Well, now, I am a confessed face latherer and truly enjoy it.
Well, I have attempted face lathering, and I use face lathering with my sticks, and I don't dislike it, but I really enjoy bowl lathering. It's just, and it's maybe because I have salsa bowls. I don't know.
Hey, that works too. That works great.
No, it's just about every episode I talk about my salsa bowls, just because it's a thing. And I recently put up a video on how I modify one. They're really easy to modify, and I got started with them because if you take them in the shower and you drop them, who cares?
Who cares?
Exactly. They just bounce around. It's no big deal. You pick them back up, you keep on going. I have found, I started out with a soup mug that I bought. It's a handmade soup mug, and I bought it for like $4. And that's the one that my logo's, that's on my logo. But, I just enjoy, there's something about bowl lathering that I enjoy more so than face lathering. I think I can actually see it, and I'm kind of a visual person. And so being able to see it, not having to look at myself in the mirror,
Yeah, maybe I should try that more.
Okay, what's the biggest issue that people have had with your soaps?
Wow.
International availability has been a big thing for us.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can understand that because, when I interviewed Con a couple 3 weeks ago, that was one of the things that kind of came out there, is that we have a plethora of choices here in the United States, and we have fairly easy shipping and things like that. Getting it to overseas people, that can be a challenge.
Mm-hmm. It's tough because they want it. They want it so bad, and then they'll message me and they want to know how much is shipping for these products. And just to get a first-class tub of soap overseas, it's astronomical. They could pay as much for the tub as they would for the shipping, and it's outrageous.
Yeah.
But they can ship to us for much cheaper, and so it doesn't go both ways.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing. In fact, I had some soaps shipped over from England, and the shipping was about the same, like you said, about the same cost as a tub of soap. Luckily, it was the same if I bought 2, so I ended up getting 2 of them.
There you go.
Yeah,
okay,
but that's the most difficult part for us at this current time. We're able, because of the amount of orders that have been coming in with Carrie's scheduling that we have, we're able to keep up with stock, so that's not been an issue. We've had a couple of issues with our website. We're trying to tweak those and trying to find just the right fit on our website. So we're playing with that as well. But we just really have been enjoying all of the encouragement that we've been receiving from all over.
Has anybody had any issues with lathering your soaps?
Not that they've come back to us with. I haven't heard anybody come directly to us with that issue.
I had one person who had extremely hard water, and he had problems keeping a stable lather, not creating a lather, but keeping a stable lather. And so, but I believe when the individual used some distilled water or had a different water source, that the lathering was not an issue any longer.
Gotcha. Yeah. One of the things that I've just recently looked at, and I'm kind of in the midst of experimenting with, is some soaps I can't get a really, really good lather with a synthetic brush. It's just because I can't load it enough. So that's been the only issue. Normally when people talk to me, because they'll send me emails and things like that, and we'll have lather emergencies, and we'll take care of them on Twitter or Facebook Messenger or something like that. And I'm willing to help out anybody that needs a helping hand as far as suggestions and things. But one of the things that I noticed with your samples is that I didn't have any issues with lathering. I didn't have any issues with loading brushes, or even though it's a sample, I would hold them in my hand and then use my hand kind of like a bowl, and just load up the brush from there, and then I'd switch over to the bowl and bowl lather it, and it worked fairly well for that.
Good.
Thank you.
What advice would you give to any newcomer to the shaving, to the traditional wet shaving scene? They show up, they don't know quite what it's all about, but they go out on a limb and they buy some of your Soap Commander soaps. And what advice would you give them to get the best experience that they can get?
Darren's had a little bit of practice with this recently. We like to do local markets and craft shows and such. And so the last couple of months, we've of course been taking our Soap Commander products and some gear there, and there has been surprisingly a great contingency that is interested, and some of them don't know anything about it, and kind of put them on the spot. What do I do with this, and how do I get started, and that type of thing. So it's been really neat to have that face-to-face opportunity for Darren to kind of help them along, and I'll let you kind of tell what you tell them.
Yeah, I think one of the foremost is trying to find the scent that you like the best. I mean, all of them are going to perform the exact same way. We have some of our soaps who have essential oils in there that might help those who might have more sensitive skin issues. But I would highly recommend them to get the sample set like you did, to find out, hey, what scent works, and then play around. Kind of like what you did. Play around with the soap, lather it up, choose a different brush. You don't have to go fancy. You can buy a $10 Omega brush, and it will lather just as good as a 2-band Badger brush will do. And try different amounts of water. Now, our soap has what I would call a tendency like a tallow-based soap, meaning that it requires a little more water than, say, like a Katie's Bubble soap would. That doesn't require hardly any water, or no water even, if you wanted to. But I would recommend them varying up the amount of water they add to it, and try it out in whichever bowl they want. They want to use a salsa bowl, knock themselves out. But once they were able to get the lather, I would recommend them taking the soap sample that they like, the scent they like, and buy a tub. The tub, for me, just fits in my hand just perfectly. And we purposely leave a headspace in all of our soaps. We purposely bought 8-ounce jars, and we fill them with more than at least 6 ounces of soap in there to leave a headspace so that the brush, regardless of what type of brush it is, fits in that tub and lathers up that puck just as nice as can be. And they'll be able to build that lather. They can transfer that lather into a bowl they like, or straight to their face. But just to take time and enjoy it. Don't expect it to be perfect. It takes time to learn how to lather right. It takes time to find out what blade works for that razor that you have, because not every blade works with every razor, and not every brush works with every soap. And watch lots of YouTube.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because the admission that I have to make is that when I received the box with the samples in them, everybody else, it was on a Friday, and everybody else was somewhere else, and so I sat there watching a movie with a salsa bowl full of warm water and a soaked brush, and I proceeded to lather every single one of these soaps just to find out what they smelled like, if I could, if there were any problems at all in the lathering. And the only problem that I had is by the end of it, my arm was getting a little sore.
Right.
But what I did then is I literally laid out which ones were my favorite scents right off. And then and that's the order that I used them in. And there was only one I think that I changed a little bit. It moved up a notch, I believe it was. But it's one of those things where, and I've talked to other folks that will sit around and maybe not quite as binge lathering as I do, but they'll practice, and that's one of the things that really makes the experience when it comes time to the actual shave a lot better, is if you don't have to struggle with getting a decent lather. If you start out with that as a known quantity, you're really a whole lot better off.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I always struggle with that. I would see pictures of people, when I first started shaving, I would see pictures of people who were getting these incredible lathers off their soaps. This is before we were even making shaving soaps at all. I'm like, how in the world are they doing this? Oh, well, it must be the brush that they're using. So let me go buy a $65, $70 brush, because that's going to make all the difference in the world. But in all actuality, it wasn't. It just took practice. And I like that idea, Rick, about not having the pressure of shaving with it. I mean, just practice making a lather in a bowl. That's a great idea. In fact, we let our kids take our tubs and let them lather it up sometimes to get the feel of that as well.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because that's where I originally noticed when my younger son shaved for the first time. He was lathering, and what I noticed is he wasn't putting any pressure on the brush, and so without any pressure on the brush, he wasn't loading it and he wasn't lathering, and we had that discussion, and he got better at it. But when you think about all the variables that are out there just in creating a lather, there's the bowl that you use. Does it have texture? Is it smooth? The brush, is it, does it have any backbone? Does it have any, has the ability to, pull soap out of a fairly hard puck, or is it soft like a Plisson, for example?
Right.
The water content that you have, how much water that you put in, how much loading you actually do. There's all these variables, and people don't realize that, and they think, oh, well, this should be just easy. And the problem is that's exactly how we ended up being sold the can of goo, where all you got to do is press a button and not worry about it. Yeah. And so you have to overcome that learning curve, if you will, to the point where when you get up in the morning and you want that stress-free shave, you don't have to stress over making a lather, because you already have that in your head and in your muscle memory, and you have something that works and functions well for you.
Right.
Yes.
I'm assuming, Carrie, and I'm doing a lot of assuming here, and so far I've been right, so that's good. I'm assuming you're the soap formulator in the family.
Yeah, I'm kind of more of the formulation research part of it. When we did the shaving soap, when we came up with that, I did the research on my end in terms of the technicality part and properties of oils and the different lyes and such like that. Darren got the fun part of buying a lot of soap to test in person and see, what did you like, what did he not like about how a soap lathered or didn't lather and feel and such. And so we kind of met in the middle, and I said, this is what I found, and this is what I found. And so I came up with, a formulation and had him try it, and we tweak from there. And that's kind of how things go. A lot of it, I kind of do more of the background work, and he does the live testing for me. And we tweak back and forth till we get what we're looking for.
Excellent. So just out of curiosity, for the tweaking, do you have to tweak your base formula for your different scents, or can you just use a base formula and scent it from there without any real issues?
Yeah, we use the same base formula for all of them. We haven't had to adjust that between different scents. We keep that standard.
All righty. So in talking, because since you have a common base for all your stuff, in talking about your shaving soaps, what makes your soap special?
Wow. We were looking for a high steric content in there, but we also, because we started with my daughter's skin, issues years ago, shea butter has been kind of a staple in our household. And we wanted to incorporate that into our shaving soap to convey the properties that shea brings to the table. Wanted that to carry through our soap. And I think that might make it a little bit different than probably some of the ones that are out there, the high shea butter content that we do include.
Okay, so you had mentioned stearic acid. Why is that important in a soap?
Getting a good thick lather and the stability of that lather. When I first started researching the idea of shaving soap, I came across a lot of recipes that were a standard bath soap recipe with clay, put in it. And the further I got, I realized olive oil should not be in there. You want to up your stearic and you don't want the oleic in there. That kind of pulls your lather down and makes it kind of a thinner. We wanted a nice, thick, cushiony, stable lather.
Yes, and it is that. And thank you for doing that, because I have tested a few soaps where they have just taken bath soaps and thrown bentonite in it, and it was a bad experience, to say the least.
Yeah, and that's not knowing anything. That's what our first impression was. We thought, oh, well, we just take a bath soap and throw the clay in there, and you're all good. And we had a lot to learn, obviously. But
well, you obviously did your homework very, very well, and have been very successful for it. So, good job.
Thank you.
One other question here: where do you stand with blooming?
That's a great question. I stand in the middle road for blooming. I believe that some fragrances, once you crack open that tub or that jar, it smells exactly the way it was designed to smell. However, there are some scents that when they're in that closed space, the scent does tend to change. I wouldn't say fade, just it might change a bit. Then once you add some hot water to it and you use it a couple times, the scent profile doesn't necessarily change, but the way you actually smell it may come across differently once the soap has been bloomed. I believe in blooming. I believe that you want to truly smell what that artisan has tried to provide you. They want to try to provide you the best smell they can for that. And if you just open it up, take a sniff and say, I don't like it, and then either piff it or sell it, then you're not getting the opportunity to really enjoy it for what it was made for. So I do think that blooming helps, but not in all cases. There are some of our soaps that we have, when you open it, it's going to smell just like it is when you shave with it.
Okay, so here's my question. What's the difference between blooming and lathering and just lathering straight off the puck without blooming?
I think blooming has to do with the temperature. For me, it does. Now, I don't know if I'm going to get blasted for that or not, but for me to bloom the scent, it needs to be aired out. It needs to have hot water added to it, and it needs to be shaved with it. Personally, that's what I believe. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't be a cold water shaver and not experience the same blooming experience you can with hot water. But for me, in my experience, in our soaps, it works best for me to add the hot water to the top of the puck, drain it off, and then lather it up, and you get the full effect of what the experience that we're trying to convey to you, especially when we mix these essential oils or these fragrance oils together, and we're really trying to give you an opportunity to smell it as the way it was invented. And some of those scents may or may not carry out unless heat has been added to it in some shape, form, or fashion.
Gotcha. Okay, so the key ingredient then is really the heat issue.
It is for me. Now, I'm not going to say in all cases, but for me it has been.
Okay. For me, what I've seen or what I've experienced is I've only had a few soaps that have given a different scent if I bloom them and then lather them versus if I just lather a dry puck, if you will. Take a moist brush, lather a dry puck, and go from there. There's only been a couple. For the most part, and it may be because I'm bowl lathering, and that gives the soap an opportunity, the oils to mix, to vent, to do whatever they need to do prior to it getting up to my nose.
Yeah.
But for me, there's been some controversy with blooming in recent history in several places. And I've kind of looked, I haven't gotten involved in it. I've just kind of sat back and said, that's an interesting perspective. And I just was wondering from a soap maker's perspective, what the big deal was.
Yeah. Well, my desired effect is that when you open up our tub of soap, that you get the smell that we're trying to convey to you as soon as you open it. That's our desire. But I can't say that all the time it's that way. I wish that it was. So there has to be something involved in it. I know that the only soap that we've made in since making soap has been refreshment that has tended to change. And that was our summer scent for this last summer. It has tended to change the scent because it's been closed up. When I open it up, let it air out, and then add some hot water to it, lather it up, the scent smells exactly the way we intended it for it to smell. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's, I can understand well having the oils kind of off gas inside a closed space and become concentrated and end up when you first open it up smelling different. And no, I'm right with you though. If somebody buys a soap, I am in full agreement that the part of the pleasure of owning the soap is opening it up and taking that first whiff and going, okay. But you shouldn't base, unless it's just absolutely off-putting, you shouldn't base any decisions that you make of the soap or, just on that initial smell. You need to lather it. You need to play with it. You need to see what it is. Even if it's a smell like, for me, for Katie's Bubbles, there's a soap that for me just doesn't do much. I've been using it consistently for the last 2 weeks just to see if my mind has changed. Maybe something that grows on you. I don't understand how, again, unless something seriously off-putting, why you would give something away, sell it, piff it, whatever, until you've at least given it a chance.
I agree.
Yeah, and that's true. And obviously each person's sense of smell is different also. I mean, even between Darren and I, there are times that we'll test new fragrances out. And I'll say, I smell, a particular thing in that scent. And he'll say, no, what are you talking about? I don't get that at all. And vice versa. And sometimes to me, a scent is very weak. And yet he'll say, no, it's strong. So, even just between two people, get a very different perception of that fragrance, of that scent. And so I think even to myself, there's certain ones that the smell kind of grows on you after a while. Like you become have a little bit more affinity for it after you've used it a while. And other times, it doesn't. It's just not the right scent. And that's understandable too.
Absolutely. Okay. Here's one for you. Darren, what out of your line is your absolute favorite scent?
Easy.
Easy peasy, but you're not going to like my answer, Rick. It's Endurance.
Okay.
By far. If I had to choose one soap of what we have, it would definitely be Endurance. No question.
Okay. No, that doesn't bother me at all. It's, to me, for me, it's okay. It's a great performing soap, no doubts, but again, smells being what they are, okay.
Doesn't crank your John Deere, is that what you're saying?
No, it really doesn't.
But I will tell you this, the second for me is Vision. I could use Vision every day, and it would be just fine with that one as well. And that was, actually the Vision was what started all of this. That was when we first started, we had test samples that went out, and it was all across Facebook. It was a little blue pill, thanks to Dr. Brian Sharp, as he so dubbed it. And a little blue pill went all over, and it was tested. But it was tested without the peppermint, and we continually got hearing the same responses from people. Friends of mine like Lamar Duke and others who were saying, this would be great if you just add peppermint to it. So we listened to our customers, and we added that to it, and it's been a huge success for us.
Excellent. Okay, so Carrie, from your perspective, from a woman's perspective, what is your favorite shaving scent?
I am in love with lime patchouli, the Respect. I literally, when I have to do anything like product pictures and such, I always save that for last. or we make soap, that's the last one. I want that scent to linger. I don't know. To me, it's just intoxicating. That's my thing. Lime just gets me, and the patchouli grounding it. Yeah, I mean, we have all those scents in the women's line, and I'd go for lime patchouli over any of the women's line. Absolutely.
And that is exactly the reason why I wanted to hear your input on that, because I figured it would be completely different.
Yes, yeah, it is. It's very, different end of the spectrum there.
Yeah. Now, that does raise an interesting question, which I also had, and this is a perfect opportunity to ask it. What's with the names?
Oh, Darren, do you want to?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, our theme of Soap Commander is taking charge, and we wanted to come up with characteristics that encouraged men to take charge, to, I don't know, we just feel it's really important to not just let life go by, to kind of, to be in control as much as you're able. You can't control everything, but to step up and to take the responsibility for who you are, what your life is, where you're going with things. And these names were attributes that we felt that men could grasp hold of, that are needed as a leader, to be in charge, respect and endurance and qualities that we want to see in their lives, and that they value and we value, and vice versa. On the women's line, the recharge, we felt one of the women's greatest needs was, to recharge herself. To you get depleted and you get worn out, and women need that kind of recharge your battery thing. And so the names for the women's line are things that women need to kind of be at their fullest: patience, and peace, motivation, things like that just really kind of get her going too. So.
And in fact, I've got Recharge site up here, and so some of the soaps, the names of some of the women's products there are clarity, peace, determination, patience, motivation, inspiration, and relaxation. And that concept is actually a very, very excellent concept, because those attributes are really, they do in fact speak, and the fragrances speak to those names. And quite honestly, I was taken aback slightly on my binge lathering night, that the names seem to fit somehow the fragrances. And when I was putting them in order, I didn't put them in order of scent profiles by the scents. I actually knew them by the name. It was almost like I made that connection almost naturally, and it was really surprising. I didn't expect that outcome.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because we spent a whole lot of time trying to match that up. I mean, just the whole rebranding process of Soap Commander was of course quite overwhelming and quite involved. And when we came up with the concept of the names being attributes, we wanted to take this beyond. I'm going to go shave. I'm going to get ready for my day. I'm going to how am I going to best face the world, and so then we came up with those attributes. But then, okay, well, what scent matches with that name? And we would arrange them a certain way. No, that doesn't reflect courage well. We need to switch the name. And so we really spent a good deal of amount of time, a thought process and intentional naming of those soaps.
Yeah, the way we really got started with the actual naming the scents to match the actual the scents to the soap is confidence. I'm sorry, no, forget that. It's courage. Someone once asked me, how would you describe courage? I said, well, I think if John Wayne was to shave with our soaps, he would shave with courage. Because to me, it smells like a masculine man. Just a take charge kind of guy. I can do this. My Chuck Norris would use that same soap, in fact. It's very masculine. So for me, I wanted us to name it something that when you smell it, that smells like something, and courage just came to mind. So we started naming all of them after that. We started saying, okay, well, what does this smell like? Maybe this could be a purpose. Maybe this could be a wisdom. respect, those types of things. So we really spent a lot of time, as Carrie said, we spent a lot of time trying to come up with those names. We appreciate you bringing that out.
Yes.
Well, if you happen to hear crinkling in the background, it's because I have all your samples here. And while you were saying that, I was opening up the Courage.
There you go.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can see that. It's just, I get it. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And like when you use Vision, the Vision that you like so much, the peppermint, it opens your eyes. It helps you see clearly now. The rain is gone.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good stuff. Okay,
Thanks.
so what is next for Soap Commander?
Wow. We have this ongoing list of, what we hope to go to next, and it's extensive. We've toyed around with a bunch of different ideas. We've been working on ideas for aftershave splash rather than a balm, or in addition to the balm. Splash, potentially taking the shaving soaps to the women's side, expanding that for women, targeting them. We're also working on some different salves. We do like a congestion salve and an herbal salve. They're not really on our website yet, but we're working on kind of tweaking them, reformulating them to be in a more convenient form for use. What else? Oh, like a muscle rub type thing. That's another one that is in the works. And then, of course, we just have a long list of, someday I'd like to try, a whole bunch of other things. But those are top on our priority list.
Rick, let me just shuck it down here for you, buddy. Just shucking on down. Here's what we would like to do. We would like for when a man walks into a bathroom, from the time he steps in there to the time he leaves, that everything that he's going to need from the time he steps in to the time that he leaves has the exact same scent. So you can let your mind wander about what that might be. And that's where we would like to be. Now, those things take a lot longer than most people want. We have people, hey, can we get a shampoo? Can we get a bath wash? Can we get a deodorant? We'd like to, but there's so much testing and evaluation. I mean, we spent almost a year in research and development just in the shave soap that you have right now. It takes that much time for us to do it. And for us to do it with excellence, which is what we strive for in everything that we do, Rick. So while we have this long list of things that we'd like to do, if all we can stick with right now is shave soaps and aftershave balms and bath soaps, we're fine with that right now as we go into 2015. But what the future holds, man, I have no idea. But trust me in this. My wife's head is always spinning for what's next.
Yeah, he kind of has to rein me back in, because my list of once an expansion gets lengthy, and I have to merge that with reality. So yeah, between the two of us, we meet in the middle.
Absolutely.
All right, where can folks find out about you?
Well, you can find us out first and foremost from our website, which is soapcommander.com. That's our primary place where we sell our soaps. However, our soaps can also be found at Shoebox Shave Shop with Mr. Gary, and also at Maggard Razors. And there are other locations as well that we're selling, but we're very excited. Luxury Barber also has our products here in the UK. But we also have, they just changed their name.
Station.
The Shaving Station in the UK has just taken over, and they are our sole reseller there in the UK, and it's just gone off wonderful since landing there in the UK.
But also Facebook. They can find out more about us.
Yeah, you can find out more about us on Facebook at our Soap Commander Facebook page. As also, we have a Twitter site, which is also Soap Commander, all one word.
Okay. Well, first off, again, thank you very much for coming on the show. It has been very insightful, a little bit inspirational, and I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you guys.
Well, Rick, we appreciate you, buddy, and we appreciate all the listeners of Brush and Soap and Blade podcast. We're just so honored to have this opportunity and to have our products even mentioned on your broadcast. Is just so very humbling for us. We appreciate all you do for all of Shavedom, and man, you're just an inspiration to all of us out there. We appreciate and thank you for your service to our country and for what you do for shavers across the world.
Yes, thank you.
Well, again, thank you very much for you guys coming up with a concept, having the courage to see it through, because it can be daunting at times, having the obvious passion that you do for everything that you're doing, including teaching your children, which is an absolute phenomenal thing above and beyond what you're doing in the soap community. You have my respect, and I have all confidence that your vision will carry you through to wherever you guys want to go.
Awesome. Good job. Good job. Thank you.
Well, that concludes this episode of the Brush and Soap and Blade podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you have some suggestions or would like a topic covered, drop me an email at brushandsoapandblade@gmail.com or give me a call at 864-372-6234 or contact us on Twitter at BrushnBlade. You can also visit us at our blog, brushandsoapandblade.wordpress.com. As always, we're available on iTunes and Stitcher.